So, first of all, thank you so much for setting up this interview, Michael. I think before I answer your question, I think we need to really take a step back and really understand the impact that global technology players like Binance can have on the economy in Philippines, right? So, just to share an interesting stat, in 2021, the total FDI amount in the Philippines was about $10.5 billion, right? In the first half of 2022, this year alone, the total amount of VC money that went into blockchain, digital asset related startups was $9.3 billion, right? What this means is we're seeing, relative to the total portion of FDI that's going to a country like Philippines, the crypto or blockchain economy is growing very quickly, right? And the $9.3 billion that I mentioned earlier was actually just the amount of early stage to mid stage funding that's moving into digital asset companies alone. So moving forward, what we would love to do is actually bring more of that investment into the Philippines. And how we plan to do that, as you currently pointed out, is really to explore ways where we can actually operate in the Philippines under a regulated license. And as part of that, you're correct, we're actually in the process of finalizing an acquisition of an EMI and VASP license. So that's actually in the process right now. The details, unfortunately, it's a confidential conversation between us and the regulators, so we are not able to comment more on that. But the bottom line here is we want to bring FDI into the Philippines. Binance wants to establish a registered entity. We have already gone through the process and identified the targets, and now we're actually just in the process of formalizing the actual acquisition. What this means here is once we actually have a licensed presence, we can actually really, really grow the ecosystem in the Philippines when it comes to blockchain and digital asset adoption. And as you know, it's no secret that Philippines is really actually one of the biggest adopters when it comes to Web3. I think MetaMask released that more than 10% of its total global wallets are actually in the Philippines, right? And I think another interesting stat is, I think as of today, there are probably close to 5 million people in the Philippines that hold crypto assets. What this means is in just a couple of years, maybe 1 or 2 years, more people in the Philippines will actually have access to crypto assets than people that have credit cards. That statistic is actually very, very interesting because, at Binance, as a global player, we strongly believe that Philippines can be a leader in the digital asset space. But in order for that to happen, more global players need to enter the market and build the ecosystem together with the local participants. First of all, in terms of global compliance, Binance has actually invested a lot in using world-class tools, all the way from KYC tools to anti-money laundering checks, to even what we call sanctions checks that are powered by world-class third-party tools such as WorldCheck and Refinitiv. What this means is we actually have a zero tolerance on anyone coming into our platform without doing KYC with a legitimate proof of identity, right? So globally, obviously, there are many other players that have different standards of KYC, but I think at Binance, we maintain the most stringent levels of step 1, layer 1 KYC, which means if you do not give us a proof of identity and that does not pass our KYC checks, you will not be even allowed to make a single trade, right? So that's before someone enters the system. Once someone passes the checks and enters the system and are allowed to obviously access our products, then what we call the next step is really having the right types of transaction monitoring and transaction reporting. Right? This is the reason why we've actually hired world-class leaders in this space, right? People who used to work with the IRS, people who used to work with national government bodies to run investigations, to actually give us world-class technology and world-class operations when it comes to post-transaction reporting. So, a few of these names include, our kind of head of global sanctions, Chagri, our head of investigations, Tigran, who have all come from very, very kind of established backgrounds. We also recently joined the National Cyber Forensics and Training Alliance, the NCFTA, of which many other law enforcement agencies are part of. And this group is actually dedicated to identifying, validating, mitigating, and neutralizing cybercrimes. And we are actually one of the few global digital asset exchanges that are actually part of this. And another thing to just to share as well is, right, control measures are also not enough. We also invest heavily into what you mentioned earlier, things such as Academy, where we educate users on not just our products, but overall the evolving technology in blockchain, different security risks when it comes to hot wallets, cold wallets, how to best protect your assets. And just to also share in terms of user protection, our cold wallets are actually fully insured by a Lloyd's underwriter. I think we appreciate that there is a need to make users aware of the various risks that are available and present in this market, right? But for us, one thing has never changed. Doesn't matter who writes the letters, doesn't matter what people say. Our core operating principle is based on user protection and customer protection, right? So what this means is we always want to optimize our product for the best interest of the user. This is why, as I said, we've actually invested a lot into ensuring that our cold wallets are insured, right? In terms of security, we invested a lot to ensure that we're multi-threshold signature protections for our various wallets. We also invested a lot in terms of ensuring that should there be any vulnerabilities or hacks, for example, we actually in Binance has this fund called SAFU, SAFU, which is Secured Asset Fund for User, that has holdings of up to $1 billion that can be used to pay out to users should their accounts be subject to any form of hacks or vulnerable attacks. That's number one, right? Number two, I think we just want to continuously involve and invest in offering a better local experience, right? And that's part of us working closely with different industry bodies, regulators, to understand how can we bring this advantage to the users. And I think just to address a lot of these baseless accusations that some of these letters are made is that if our internal processes were not up to the minimum standards, we would not be able to obtain licenses in the likes of France, Italy, Spain, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, right? These are all licenses that we got recently within the last 6 to 9 months, right? And I think it's a testament to how much we're invested in our internal controls and compliance.